Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Ham Nation is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by Icom. For more information, visit IcomAmerica.com/HamNation.
This is Ham Nation, episode 211 for August 26, 2015. Katrina, 10 years later. Good evening. Welcome to another exciting episode of Ham Nation. I'm George. Bob Hall is not with us this week. We hope he'll be back next week. I think maybe he's down in Tennessee tonight. Not really sure about that. Well, if you look behind me here, you see a lot of things on the bench. This is my fish tape, and no, I have not been fishing. This is because I've traded mobiles this week, and I've got well, you can't see it, it's behind me, but I've got my HF mobile station behind me here, and the VHF, UHF sitting over there, and I've got to figure out how to put all this stuff back in. Boy, it's really been too hot to do that, so I've gotten out of it so far, but that's not going to last. Well, we've got a big show tonight. We're going to have Gordo here, of course. We're going to have Val with us. She's got some more DX for us. We've got Don, of course, with Newsline. And I think we're going to have a solar update as well. And we've got Dale with some great videos. And toward the end of the show, Don and I are going to talk a little bit about Hurricane Katrina, which was about 10 years ago. So without further ado, let's bring in our friend over in Costa Mesa, Gordo, and see what's going on around the world in ham radio.
All right. Well, everything is just fine, and I'm pleased to say the latest issue of CQ magazine actually came out a few days before its actual publication date, September. So we are delighted that CQ is doing well. Well, CQ, Kansas, QSO party. And Brian, if you'll go ahead and roll that shot, Saturday, the 29th, for 12 hours. This is going to be a great 12-hour Kansas City, or make that Kansas QSO party. Then Sunday, the 30th, for 6 hours. There's going to be 45 one-by-one calls on the air, and our own Video Dale is going to be the U in W0U. So how many folks can work all of those calls? And if you figure it out at the beginning and end, it'll read Kansas QSO Party Sunflower, as you see right there. So good luck this weekend. Now, coming up a couple more weeks from now after the big holiday will be the Louisville, and you can go ahead and drop that, Brian, the Louisville, Kentucky Hamfest. They're going to have ARRL, ARES talks. They're going to talk about QSL card checking. They're going to talk about it. They're going to do it. Vendors, a special sun scope to look at the solar eruptions on the face of the sun without burning your eyeballs. They're going to have search jogs from Jefferson City. They're going to have prizes. That's September 12th in Louisville. And then that next weekend, September 19th, all the way through October 17th, a convoy of old military vehicles and Jeeps of hams are going from the East Coast to the West Coast. We'll give you more information, convoys on the air. Well, my convoy was to Boston this past week to take in the Boxboro Hamfest. I had everything packed, went up to Los Angeles Airport, all set to get through the TSA. And as they were x-raying my bag, they go, "One moment." And they said, "We need to check out the electronics in your bag." And I thought, oh, my God. I mean, I got radios and everything. They said specifically something with looks like a battery and a switch and a coil of wire. And I said, oh, I know what it is. Let me take it. No, they go, no. don't get near your bag. So I had to stand back, and then I was surrounded by a couple of TSA big guys, and I waited, and then they have like a TSA electronics checker come out. And he said, what's the problem? And I go, well, I don't have a problem, but may I demonstrate what's in the bag? He says, no, you just stand there. So they went through the bag, and he pulls out of the plastic my 2 CW keys. And he says, would you mind telling us what these are used for? And I said, CW, Morse code. And they said, well, can you demonstrate it? Like, send me the letter C. And this is a big guy, like, bearing down on me. So I gave out a very nervous C. And then he said, would you do W? And then he says, Gordo, I took your class a couple of years ago. Remember me? Yeah. He grilled the heck out of me over my little CW keyer. So anyway, Brian, roll Boxboro. Gosh, what's going to happen next at TSA and double checking? All right, Brian, if you'll go ahead and roll the Boxboro still shot. This is the complex. It's an hour and a half away from Boxboro during heavy traffic time, and it is the Boxboro New England Division Hamfest site at a Holiday Inn in the middle of a forest. And I mean, it was big. On Friday, we did our Ham Instructor Academy, and that was a big success. We had about 70 folks there. This is even long before the class got going, but we brought all that stuff. No, didn't go through TSA. That came United Parcel. But we got through there. We got everybody lined up. And the instructors did a fabulous job, and they learned everything, and we had a great time. And when we were there, we also took in one of the hams, 2 of the hams, Jim and Rob, Jim KB1KQV doing video work, and we had a Skywarn class in the afternoon. I know, Skywarn. Yeah. Let me tell you, this is serious stuff, because when you work with WX1BOX and the Weather Service getting reports, they want the real facts. They don't want to know, is it a big cloud or a small one? They wanted the details. So I went through Skywarn and I learned a lot. Thanks, Jim. So after that was over, you got to go outside and see that the Friday night folks are settling in. Look at that country. Boxboro, you know how to do it upright. Notice no power line, so no noise. And, of course, no noise means that you can put a loop right out there, and except for maybe a deer or 2 that'll nibble at it, or maybe a bear, it was as quiet as a lamb. So Boxboro, a neat place for a Hamfest at their Holiday Inn Executive Retreat Center. Well, so we also saw the put up of all of the different canopies for the big swap meet folks. And this is Jill and Scott's setup called Tower Electronics. Now, this is a huge tent. 2 years ago in Shelby, a mini, I'm Skywarn now, I have to say it right, a mini downdraft or straight line winds came down there, and it took that entire canopy and completely crashed it, ruined all of their stock on the inside. So we are so proud that Scott and Jill just duke it out, and they're at every big ham fest. So when you see them next week or wherever, tell them, keep up the great work. And we also had other vendors that came in and set up tables on the night before. They were there with all sorts of great gear to offer at the Hamfest. That next morning, Saturday morning, no rain. Hooray. We need the rain here in California. Look at those swappers. This is about 6 in the morning, and they are out there in style. And look at some of this gear. I mean, it was going pennies on the dollar. But they knew what they had, so they weren't giving it away. And if you didn't bring a table, well, you got to bend down. But nonetheless, if ever you needed a little drawer full of resistors or caps, they had them. So this was the Boxboro swap meet. Let me tell you, the Boxboro committee really had it together in their organization. Here's a fella looking at a vintage whatever, and I have no idea what it was, but he bought it for a few bucks and immediately walked away. So it must have been a treasure. Look at these old frequency standards. George, remember those days? That was long before dawn. And that is Bonnie the dog. And this is great when you can go to a ham fest and come in with your favorite pet. Everybody gives the dog a pet. But it was a fun swap meet in the morning before things got going. Hey, calling all satellites, they had dozens of satellite contacts, and they were ready. In fact, speaking of satellite contacts, Fox 1A is going up October 8th, and this is going to give satellite enthusiasts an easy shot. And Robert, he did it great, but we go up on 435.18. We listen on 145.98. A little handheld, like you see the FT60 there is all he had. Well, he had an amplifier and maybe a preamp, but he was working satellites at Boxboro Duck Soup. Real easy. In fact, others with the different antennas, log periodic antenna, the elk antenna, were also picking it up as well. And that's neat when you can show off what you're doing with satellites. Remember, going up Fox 1A, October 8th out of Vandenberg. And for those of you looking for a 10-cent copy of QST, they were there in plastic, all protected to add to your collection. Inside every great ham fest, and here at Boxboro, was the special event station, Whiskey 1 Alpha. And that special event station was on the air for the entire time, remote controlled. There are no big coax cables going outside. They were going to 4 different remotes. And let me tell you, working the radio, you would not have known it. There was micro delay, solid copy, turning the beam antennas. It was all done via remote. Thanks, Dennis, W1UE, for setting that up, and your team that kept it on the air continuously. Oh, yeah, they had FM and digital repeaters, FM for talk-in, digital using DMR. And this is also beside DMR country, Icom D-Star country. So a lot of digital embraced by the New England division for ham radio and emergency preparedness. All right, the Hamfest opens, and immediately there's 45 people going for a technician one-day program. Yes, they studied, hopefully, my books well ahead of time, and I understand out of the 40, about 35 passed with flying colors that did their homework ahead. It was a great program, and they were given a round of applause when they came out. Hey, kids were big, and this is the Clay Center. These kids were doing an interview, and that was their instructor. And when you think the kids doing an interview are going to go, "Hi, my name is Bob," negative. They were right on the mic. "Hi there, my name." I mean, they knew mic presence. So Clay Center, you did it up right. Those kids were everywhere. And you think, well, they got just a tech license. Well, maybe a general. Oh, no. Most of the kids were sporting the extra class ticket. So kids at Boxboro were a feature. Clay Center, you really know how to train those kids on ham radio. And we'll give you more information about that. And integral to ham radio and learning is kit building, and they had a whole evening of putting together stuff and talk about some neat kits and some pretty handy-dandy wiring. All right, everybody loves going to a ham fest that has an inside air-conditioned exhibit hall, and they even had the little LED lights up there on the top. They're just originally getting set up. It was wall-to-wall at Boxboro once they opened up the floodgates. And there you can see CQ Magazine and Rich way down there on the back on this other row, but it was who's who in ham radio. And expert linears were there. These are those new linears with the LCD display, and they were really pumping out the watts. Everything was live in the booth, including those great husband and wife team. Over at Ham Source, and I love some of the Ham Source products. That's John and Dale. And here they're showing off some of the latest gizmos. And Ham Source is a great place. Look them up on the internet to look for accessories for your ham radio shack. And there's just one of them, and that is the Anderson Power Pole distribution box, and on top of it, the Easy Strip. So neat stuff from Ham Source. There's Gene of KJI showing off all of his gear. He's always dressed up nice. And that's Randy that keeps things rolling at KJI. And over there, right-hand side is Marianne. All day, all night, Marianne, the three of them had a packed booth the entire time. Ooh, look at this from Flex Radio. Yum, yum, yum. Software-defined radio, but you hold that little puppy. It's wireless. It's just like the real thing. And, of course, Dennis Machenbacher and his team staffing the Yaesu booth. Dennis, great to see you and the whole Yaesu team. And, of course, all of their gear was turned on and live. And Icom America, yep, they were just standing strong, and a long list of folks there praising the D-Star digital system and all the great support that Icom has. And before we go away from Icom and Yaesu and Kenwood and Elenco, I got to say, these folks pay the big bucks to ship all of that stuff out to these Hamfests. People say, am I down on Chinese handhelds, the Beoyong and the Yingyong? No, I'm not down on them, but I object that they don't support the USA ham industry. Yep, they're sold by Amazon at rock bottom prices. Amazon's not going to be there. So I always encourage you, be sure and first shop the major manufacturers that take ads in the magazine, take booth space at the Hamfest, and are out there to actively support it. Not someone from the Far East that's just shipping the stuff in with almost no USA support. So there, I said it. And the Chinese are good radios, but we need to have their support in our ham industry. Of course, Ellicraft was there, and users and their entire staff, you got to drool when you see some of the great things that Ellicraft was showing. And, of course, everything was live. Oh, look at Eric and his wife there. I think he's writing up an order. But the main people are there. This is what we call ham radio support. And these manufacturers spend thousands of dollars to ship their exhibits here and there just to support us as ham operators. So work those that support us well. Ham Radio Outlet was there, and they were doing great business. They gave me a little bit of an end table to sign the books. And I was delighted to meet all the great hams. And look at this, Quicksilver Radio. If ever you wanted stuff for Anderson connectors, you've got it available. But here's what I liked. All of those, and again, live, turned on, meters and all sorts of neat test gear like that. So it was a fun time at Boxboro. I'd like to thank all of the New England folks for putting up with me and letting me do the banquet and blow up a few pickles. And I hope you all agree with me, both in the chat room as well as those seeing this Ham Nation show, as well as our Ham Nation team. We go with those manufacturers that bust their rear ends to go to all of these ham shows, take out expensive ads, and promote ham radio and their products and support our industry, not just have stuff coming in from the Far East or Midwest or wherever without industry support. So there you go. The big ones, I support you. All right, that's my story. Boxboro, you outdid yourself. Back to, let's see, Don or George.
Well, Gordo, looks like you had a big time there. And, it's always great to visit these Hamfests at different places in the U.S. and see how they're a little bit different from each other. And I'll agree with you. I support the bigger manufacturers who support us here in the United States because, without them, there'd be a lot of events that we wouldn't have. A lot of these Hamfests probably wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, you're
right now, let's get Val in here and see what's going on in the wide, wide world of DX.
All right. Well, before I start my segment, I just wanted to say I went to my own fest this weekend, Gordo, and that was the SMC Fest, the Society of Midwest Contesters. They had their 30th anniversary, and we had a big festival. And one of the presenters there, NN1N, Dave, he did a presentation on the SMC when it first got started back in 1985. And I thought you guys might enjoy this one photo that he showed. If you can recognize that Miami Vice wannabe there, that's Jerry. Back in the day, I thought that was pretty funny. Back when his call was WD9HAD. So, but it was a great time had by all. We had over 70 people, and he's definitely going to be mad at me for showing that photo. But I almost recognize him from the Miller Lite in his hand. But anyway, now it's time for DX. So I actually, if you want to start my new intro for the DX files.
Whoa!
Okay, I was having a little fun this weekend. But anyway, so I made an intro for this. But anyway, coming up, there's not much DX going on, but there's some DX conventions coming up. I have a slide on the two coming up real soon. Next month, we have the W9DXCC DX convention, as well as the SEDCO one. So anybody living anywhere in the Midwest, I highly recommend you go to W9DXCC. They're going to have a Contest U and DX University, both going on Friday. They're going to be separate in the morning, but then in the afternoon, there'll be a joined program. Very informative. So any of you new to DXing or contesting and you're in the Midwest, highly recommend you go to that Friday session. Saturday, they're going to have lots of presentations on like the Kuwait DXpedition, Navassa, Palau. They're going to have an ARRL roundtable, and of course, a lot of rubbing elbows with a lot of the DX. And then also for the SEDCO W4DXCC, Friday, they have ham radio boot camp. And then on Saturday, they're going to have presentations on Vanuatu, Mellish Reef, Navassa, and they're going to have a seminar on contest automation, plus a lot more. So if you're anywhere near Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, or the Chicago area, I highly recommend you go to those DX conventions. All right, as you recall, I sent out a plea to anybody who wanted to be mentored in contesting, and I had a lot of response. And the winner, Matt Walsh, well, he was at our QTH here a week and a half ago for the NAQP. And so I put together a little video of our operating for NAQP. If you want to go ahead and roll that one, Brian.
CQ contest, November Victor 9 Lima contest. Got muscled out.
What?
It was a nice little run.
Yeah.
My call history's not doing it. They were all unique. CQ contest, November Victor 9 Lima. Kira's out looking for anybody anywhere. Is it Kilo India 7 Bravo Papa? Name here is Val. Victor Alpha Lima. You're 5'9" into Illinois. Thanks, Ted in Idaho. Appreciate it. I needed that state. I appreciate you checking in today. 7388. This is November Victor 9 Lima for the NAQP, but I'm looking for anybody anywhere. Your name's Jim, you said? You're in Hawaii?
Yeah, I'm wondering. If it's following
well, you sound great from the Lighthouse. Name here is Val, V-A-L. You're about a 5'7" into Illinois.
I've used N2YO.
Yeah.
It's
N2IO, right? Or is it YO?
It's yes.
You see what that one.
Oh, thanks so much for watching. Appreciate it.
He does a really nice job of...
all right, take care. November
exactly
Victor 9 Lima. Here's that. All right, thanks, Dan. Hey, we're going to change operators.
Oh, sure.
We're going to change operators here. So hang on here. I didn't put your call in.
November Victor 9 Lima. QRZ. Alpha Bravo 6. Was there an Alpha Bravo 6? November 6, Tango Golf Mike. Val, Victor Alpha Lima, Illinois. Thanks for California, Steve. November Victor 9 Lima, contest. The Kilo 6, please. Kilo 6, Mike Uniform Golf. Val, Victor Alpha Lima, Illinois. Phil, thank you. I copy you in California. Did I get the state right? QSL, thank you. 73, November Victor 9 Lima, contest. Whiskey 7, Lima Bravo Hotel, Val, India Lima. Yes, great contest here. The West Coast has really picked up in the last few minutes. Can I get your name for the logbook? All right, thank you very much for checking in, Brad. 73, November Victor 9 Lima contest.
So those are our scores, and I got to say, Matt Walsh, Alpha Charlie 9 India Golf, he actually was a real natural at contesting, and the poor guy had to say his name was Val all weekend, so I kind of felt sorry for him, but he seemed to have had a good time, and we definitely plan on doing this again, and Ray at Icom actually offered to put we're going to do a small group that next time instead of just one person, and he offered to put everybody up at the nearest hotel. So look forward to that in the fall. We haven't decided which contest we're going to do this with, but hopefully those of you who didn't make it will want to do it again this fall. And that's it for that, but I did put together something on how to, how to make your QRZ, page be more than just your information. So, and, I could only fit it into a few, so many minutes. So it's just skimming the surface on all the different things you can do with QRZ. But if you want to go ahead and roll that one, Brian, that'd be great. Where would we be without QRZ.com? I use it all the time, as I'm sure many of you do as well. It is free to use. I recommend if you do use it on a regular basis, please subscribe if you can afford it. And you can find that under the contact section of QRZ.com. Here we go. Let's add some pizzazz to your QRZ page. First thing you're going to want to do is log in to QRZ.com and go into the edit section. And we're going to start off by editing the photos. First, in order to upload photos to your QRZ page, you need to upload them into this section here. So let's upload one now. We're going to go down and choose the file we want to upload, the photo we want to upload. And I'll just pick a photo here. Hit open. And then you click on the upload button. And that's going to upload that photo for you. Now you're just going to want to keep doing that till it fills with all the photos you're going to want to use on your QRZ page. And this is also where you can pick which one's going to be your main profile photo at the top. So I'll show you how to pick one there. I can change from one to the other by just clicking that. And now that is my new profile photo. You'll see when we go back to the page there. There's my profile photo. And as you can see, my little subscriber seal there as well. So now let's drop some photos into our QRZ page. I'll show you how to do that. So go back in to edit, and this time you're going to edit the biography section of your QRZ page. So let's pick where we want that photo to go. So I'm going to drop down here and put it right there in the middle. And now I'm going to go ahead and click that little picture frame there, and then hit that open bit button, and it's going to give me the list of all the photos that I've uploaded, and I can select any of those photos that I've already pre-uploaded. Let's do Ham Nation. All right, so we can hit OK there, or I can go back in and I'll show you how to change the size. You can increase it, obviously. There you go. Kind of big, so let's shrink it back down. All right, and now we can go into the URL, add a website link embedded behind that photo. So I want to go ahead and embed it with the Ham Nation website. So if they click on that, it's going to bring them right to the Ham Nation website. So let's go ahead and get that URL. You just go to the website you want to embed and copy that address at the top. Just highlight it all, right click, copy, and go back to QRZ, and we're going to paste it in there. Now, I always think it's courteous whenever somebody clicks on something that goes to another website, it does it in a new tab. So they're still on my QRZ page, and it'll give them a new tab for the new website. So now let's go in and check it out, make sure it worked. Click on Ham Nation, and what does it do? It brings you right to the website. Okay, next I want to put on Fidget.com. This is what I call my little stalker tool. It's kind of cool. This is going to give you in real time everybody that's hitting your QRZ page. It's not actually where they're from. It's where their internet service provider is located, but it gives you a rough idea of who's all hitting your QRZ page. So we're going to go down here and click the non-JavaScript HTML code It's so much easier to put that in to the QRZ page. And you can click there and copy the HTML code. Again, highlight it all, hit the copy, and then go back to your QRZ page. We're going to go back into edit again, edit the biography, and let's pick where we want to put that. Now, since we're entering HTML code, we're going to go ahead and hit the source button at the top there. Now, you want to go down to where you want to put that in, and you want to leave a couple blank lines in between so it looks nice and neat. And you want to start everything you enter, any code you enter, with a P in those hard parentheses, which are above your comma and your period. And you want to make sure you copy in the code and end it with a /P in those hard parentheses. They call those paragraph tags in HTML code. So let's save it and get back out, and let's see if it worked. And there it is. There's your live traffic feed. Now you can set that up if you want to see the 10 most recent ones, and this one's showing the most recent one. But on my QRZ page, you'll see at the bottom I have a lot more appearing on mine. So now there's some other fun things you can do. We can put a countdown clock on your website. Say you're looking forward to Dayton, or you got some big Hamfest coming up. You can put a big countdown clock on there. That's always fun. And here's make your own countdown clock. You can pick your date, what the event is. You can have it be recurring. You can pick your colors, all kinds of fun things to do. And once you pick everything the way you want it, let's just go ahead and pick some things here. Set up the Ham Nation countdown clock, and you click that, and it's going to give you the code to give it those colors and everything you need. And then, of course, we're just going to copy and paste this code. And once again, go back into QRZ, click Edit, Biography. Let's go ahead and remove that fidget. And we're going to do this without hitting the source. I'm just going to put the paragraph tag at the beginning, paste in the code, put it at the end as well with the /. Let's go ahead and hit save. Done. And there it is. Now you can also upload your YouTube videos to QRZ. You can just go to YouTube, pick the video you're going to want to upload. Let me log in here and do Ham Nation the movie. Let's do that one. So if you click on that, I'm going to get the URL for that YouTube video. Go back to QRZ, edit, biography, and see that little YouTube icon up there? We're going to click on that and enter the URL there. Hit OK. And look at that. There's the video. Let's get out, save. There it is. And you can also now add flag counters. A lot of people like to collect different flags from around the world. So every time a different person from a different country hits your website, it's going to show that flag. And it's really fun to try and collect as many flags from around the world as you can. So you can create how wide you want the columns and how many rows you want them to be. And once you pick how you like it, you just click that button. It's going to give you the HTML code for that, which you can copy and paste to your QRZ page. Just like we've done all the others. Just pick where you want it to go, and we'll stick it at the bottom here. Don't forget to put the paragraph tags in the beginning. And don't worry, I'm going to give you a slide at the end of this, which is going to give all the website addresses for some of these cool things you can put on a QRZ page. And there's my one whole flag I've collected so far. So now let's go back into Edit, Biography, and I'm going to show you here where you can change your fonts and play with the wording. So it's not just black text. You can make it pop. with different backgrounds and have your letters be white, just typical font things that you'll find in any kind of Word document that you can find here on QRZ as well. So go ahead and play around with it all, have some fun, try and liven things up, and enjoy. Here are the web addresses to some of the sites we visited in this video, as well as some others you might want to consider, like the solar data one, or you could do a UTC clock. Now, obviously, you don't have to use any of these. You could find your own, but now sky is the limit for you now that I showed you how to copy the HTML code and put it onto QRZ.com. So get out there and have fun. And that's QRZ. Now, people were asking in the chat room if you call it QRZ or QRZ. I'm going to tell you, out DXing and working out on the HF, most people call it QRZ. Z is the Canadian way to say Z. So I don't know how that happened, but pretty much everyone I hear always calls it QRZ. But you can call it whatever you want. But that's all I've got for now. I'm going to be in the chat room, so post your questions and any upgrades, and I'm going to pass it over to Don, see if we had a big news week in ham radio.
Thank you, Val. We kind of did, and let's just go ahead and get into that, shall we? Here are the news headlines of the week from Amateur Radio Newsline. From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 1973, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, August 26, 2015. Fire swept through the Colorado home of well-known contester Chuck Cullion, K0RF, Tuesday, August 18th. Local media accounts and the Boulder County Sheriff's Office reported that the damage was extensive, but no injuries were reported. A fellow ham, George Schultz, W0UA, told the ARRL that he's operated often from Cullion's shack, which occupies 2 bays of the ranch-style home's 6-bay garage. He said fire officials believe the blaze originated in the laundry room, possibly the clothes dryer. Latest report said that the Red Cross was assisting the family in finding temporary shelter. You might call it the end of an era. Rockwell Collins, which designed and manufactured mechanical filters for more than 2 generations of hams, has discontinued the filter production. The company posted on its website, "Over the past several years, we've seen a dramatic reduction in demand for narrowband analog filters. Due to this and other economic reasons, Filter Products will be discontinuing its mechanical filter products in the near future." The company acknowledged that the filters have been eclipsed by digital signal processing, and this was a significant factor in its decision. Rockwell Collins has not yet announced a date for the final production run. Just days away from the 10th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina on August 29th comes a story of lessons learned. A Mississippi hospital administrator has come to believe that the best remedy for some emergencies may well be a reliable prescription of ham radio. Harold Murphy, Assistant Safety Director for the George Regional Health System, expects to improve on the hospital system's emergency responsibilities by tapping into radio communications. The system operates 2 hospitals, 2 nursing homes, and a number of medical clinics and other health-related centers. Murphy's extensive career as a safety professional, both in hospitals and as a volunteer firefighter, has landed him in the thick of earthquakes, mudslides, ice storms, and tornadoes. His skills were especially tested recently in Hurricanes Katrina and Ivan. He said, "Throughout all of my experiences, one thing stands out, the integral piece in the response process, communication." Toward that end, Murphy has thrown himself wholeheartedly into his new management strategy. This past spring, he got his technician's license, then wasted no time upgrading to general class. He's still studying and hopes to pass his next test no later than December. It's back to school time for kids and their teachers, and for some educators, the curriculum includes amateur radio. They enrolled in the ARRL's Teachers Institute on Wireless Technology, where ARRL's team of trainers taught them how to be more effective radio science instructors for their returning young students. Let's hear from Larry Kendall, K6NDL, one of the Institute's instructors who spoke recently with Amateur Radio Newsline's Hap Holly, KC9RP, about how and why he teaches these teachers how to teach, everything from robotics and electronics to satellites and weather.
The interesting part of this for me is it really is kind of refreshing and reinvigorating just in terms of my both technical skills, gives me a chance to do some things that are kind of above and beyond what I would be doing with 7th and 8th graders, for example. It really gives me a chance to reconnect with teachers. I don't have a lot of opportunities during a typical day here at school to interact with a lot of adults because I have 210 or so students. It really is a lot of fun for me And this gives me an opportunity to build up my own skills, my own knowledge. Needing to teach it to other people, I need to kind of overlearn it myself. Looking at exciting applications of the topics and technology, it just is kind of a win-win for me.
The Institute, already planning for next year, meets the challenge of teacher enrollment by doing some effective communications of its own, this time off the air.
Each year around January, the League puts out a very nice colored brochure about the teacher institutes that gives the dates and that kind of thing. As far as finding out information, we're in the process of trying to produce some materials that local radio clubs can use to promote the teacher institutes, a short video and some other things, along with the brochure, kind of give them a sense of what they can then share with their teachers. And that's what we hope some of the local clubs will do. Most of the people that attend find out about it through the articles and stories and things that appear in QST that then are read by amateurs that talk it up at their local club meetings and friends that are teachers. It's kind of a word of mouth plus publications and information that goes out through the mail and through the internet.
To hear Kendall talk more about the Teachers Institute on wireless technology, check out this week's Rain Report, available on demand from therainreport.com, via Twitter at #TheRainReport, and via iTunes.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for over 37 years and counting, at www.arnewsline.org. With Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW 73. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation. And now, here's Dr. Tamitha Skov with the solar update.
We have 3 earthward-directed solar storms that could bring us aurora, plus a nasty sunspot that's been firing off big flares and making a mess of the radio communications and causing some GPS issues. That's in the news this week. We're coming down from the high of those gorgeous set of solar storms we had back on the 15th. You can see them being spawned by some of these eruptions right here. And those brought us some gorgeous aurora. We had beautiful Perseids with aurora. We even had a proton arc. I'll let you be the judge. And I'll get to that in a minute. Meanwhile, we kind of quieted down on the sun a little bit until region 2403 showed up. And this thing started firing solar storm after solar storm almost as soon as it became in view. We had one starting around the 21st, and then again on the 22nd, and now even into the 23rd, we're still seeing these solar storms. It's also fired a number of flares, and part of the reason I think it's got this very strange configuration with coronal holes on either side, so it's likely going to be unstable pretty much as it continues to cross through the disk. Switching to our M-flare threat meter, you can see prior to the 21st, things were pretty quiet. There wasn't a lot going on. And then bam, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 M-class flares in the span of just a couple days, and things continue to be firing. This is all due to region 2403. Things seem to be quieting down a little bit in terms of the flare potential, but this region has just fired off yet another solar storm. Switching to our solar storm levels, you can see back on the 15th, we did have that gorgeous G3 level solar storm, which caused some gorgeous aurora pretty much all over the world, including from the ISS. We've got some really great shots. And then it was followed by a high-speed stream, and so the storming just continued for days and days until about the 19th, when things finally began to really calm down. And all of this activity over the past week or so has brought us some amazing aurora shows pretty much all over the world. And some of it has even overlapped with Perseids, which has given us some beautiful photographs. And with this latest solar storm, as you can see here from the ISS, it was incredibly strong. And it's brought us pictures of proton arcs that were seen all over from Canada and clear down into Washington state. So, for example, we saw gorgeous Perseids along with aurora in Denmark and in Finland, in Sweden, and in Scotland. Now in Canada, aurora was so plentiful I can't even post all the pictures. In British Columbia, we had gorgeous aurora from places like Whistler and Black Tusk. In Alberta, we had gorgeous aurora from Edmonton and also Alex. And there were coronas in the United States over Alaska. We also had beautiful aurora in Vermont, as well as in Montana, Minnesota, Colorado, and Wyoming. That's how far south it reached. And here's the proton arc in Washington state. Now, returning to that set of solar storms that's on their way to Earth right now, this is our prediction model, Enlil. This is NOAA's version of the model. The top panel's density, the bottom panel's velocity. And you can see that set of solar storms coming out really fast. And it's also embedded in a high-speed stream. So when this set of storms hits, it should be right early on the 24th, and it might bring us some really good aurora, hopefully down to mid-latitudes. Looking at our solar storm conditions and aurora possibilities over the coming week, you can definitely see the impact that we're expecting from those solar storms and that high-speed wind. NOAA is giving us about a 45% chance of a major storm at high latitudes, with it continuing to be active and aurora chances throughout the week. At mid-latitudes, we're only expecting about a 15% chance of minor storm conditions over the next few days, with things beginning to die down as you get later through the week. But again, the aurora possibilities are quite high. Switching to your solar flare and particle radiation storm outlook over the coming week, the dominant player here is region 2403. NOAA is giving us about a 65% chance of an M-class flare, with about a 10% chance of an X-class flare over the coming days. And as that region begins to rotate off to the west limb, you're seeing a rising chance of a particle radiation storm up to about 10% or so, and that will continue throughout the week as that region rotates out of view. So this week is very busy. We have 3 solar storms that are en route, along with some high-speed wind. In fact, the beginning of that high-speed wind is already upon us, and I'm getting reports that the amateur radio bands are pretty much smashed. And when those solar storms hit, that's just going to make things even harder. And of course, we've got these M-class flares that just keep going off one after the other after the other. So that means the amateur radio bands are probably toast for the next 24 to maybe even 72 hours. And all you GPS people, no drone racing under the aurora, definitely not, and at high latitudes. That could be a problem for the next few days. Outside of that, we do have some gorgeous chances for aurora, so please keep those aurora photos coming. I'm Tamitha Scove. Thank you for watching.
Nice to have Dr. T back with us after not being around for a couple of weeks. Her father's been in the hospital, had some pretty serious surgery. I'm happy to report that he's talking and doing better, and so your prayers and happy thoughts are working, so keep those up. Nice to have Dr. T with us. We'll come back and we'll have some stuff with Dale. We'll have some talk about the 10th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. We'll have Val in the chat room and a whole lot more after this from Icom.
Are you contest ready? Expand your band experience and check out Icom for the best in HF. Once again, Icom raises the bar with the IC7851. Radio features include a 1.2 kilohertz optimum roofing filter, new local oscillator design with improved phase noise, and several spectrum scope enhancements. The pattern of perfection continues with Icom's IC7700. This radio features a spectrum waterfall display on an impressive 7-inch color LCD, digital voice recording to capture incoming and outgoing calls, and direct remote control operation with Icom's RSBA1 software. For solid HF operation this season, try Icom's IC7600. This rig offers advanced DSP technology and 3 IF roofing filters, dual watch on the same band, and LED backlighting on an ultra-wide 5.8-inch display. Make sure you visit ICOMAmerica/amateur for more information on Icom's complete line of amateur radio products. And you can tune in and enter to win after each episode of Ham Nation. Go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation and register to win for some great swag prizes like T-shirts or hats. And you can also learn how you could win in the monthly grand prize drawing for new radio. For August, the grand prize is going to be the IC2300H. It's a simple, small but powerful VHF mobile with 65 watts of stable output, proven rugged dependability, and it's tested to the latest mill standard 810G specifications. So go to ICOMAmerica.com/HamNation after this and each episode of Ham Nation and register to win. And you know, there's been some stuff circulating around on the internet here for the last few days. Icom in Japan just announced the new IC7300. If you do some searching around, you'll find some information on that. There it is right there. Well, we don't really have time to talk much about it tonight, and it's still brand new, but I'm sure this is something we're going to be talking about in the future. We don't know the price yet, but boy, what a super-looking radio that I think we're going to want to know more about. But right now, we want to know what Dale has got in his video stash. Hi, Dale.
Okay, George, glad to be here this evening. Good to see you again this evening. Tonight, we've got a great video clip from News 12 Long Island. They have coverage of the International Lighthouse special event there on Long Island. And we've got a graphical look I think you'll find interesting. We look at the statistics behind the Ham Nation 200 bicentennial broadcast special event. Going to go ahead and jump right in now. Check out the great local broadcast coverage of the International Lighthouse operation. It was sponsored by the Great South Bay Amateur Radio Club on Long Island.
It could help save your life during emergencies, but today ham radio operators use the communication tool to have a little fun and talk to people around the world.
CQ, CQ, CQ.
These ham radio operators are crucial in emergencies when a storm takes out your telephone service and your internet.
We were very active during Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Irene.
But today, a unique and more laid-back day for the Great South Bay Amateur Radio Club as they operate at the Fire Island Lighthouse.
We're sitting right between the Atlantic Ocean and Great South Bay, and we appreciate the contact.
The ham radio operators say this event is one of the most special ones that they do all year. And standing here at the top of the Fire Island Lighthouse, you can certainly see why.
This is a hidden gem on Long Island.
This one here is a very special place to operate. Not many people get to operate from these locations. Once a year, all around the world.
All weekend long, they have been communicating with other amateur radio operators stationed at lighthouses across the world. It's all part of the International Lighthouse Lightship Weekend.
The purpose is simply to promote the preservation and restoration of lighthouses throughout the world, and of course to promote ham radio.
There are about 50 countries on the air and more than 500 lighthouses worldwide that are operating this event. John Melfi says he couldn't believe some of the spots they made contact with.
The most interesting spot we hit this weekend was Uruguay Lighthouse. You kind of get this sense of accomplishment. You know, you work it off a little piece of wire, only about 40 feet in the air. And when the guy comes back to you and tells you where he is, it's like, all right, I got a lighthouse in a rare spot, and it's totally awesome.
And the Great South Bay Amateur Radio Club also offers some free classes. To learn more, head to news12.com and click on numbers and links. CQ.
Well, special thanks for sharing that video clip of the local broadcast coverage there on Long Island goes to John Melfi. He's W2HCB, and he's president of the Great South Bay Amateur Radio Club. He's also the assistant Hudson director. Well, up next, a look back at the Ham Nation 200 special event back in late May and early June. This was my first experience working with big data concepts, and it was a lot of fun despite many software glitches along the way, but let's watch.
The show is over tonight, and the guys are on the air making contacts. It's going to be a matter of busting the pileups here. Oh boy, is there a pileup. We'll see if we can make contact. Whiskey Delta 0, Alpha Kilo X-Ray.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here too. Greetings to everybody.
It's Bob Heil.
Go ahead. Okay, Roger, 71H. Al in the Hat City, Danbury, Connecticut, W0H. Dale in Goddard, Kansas, the center of the country, K9EID. That's Dr. Bob Heil in Pleasant Hope, Missouri, and Whiskey 6 Hotel in Gilroy, California, the garlic capital. Got all of us here. You can get 4 in 1.
We're going to work them here.
Well, that was Larry, WD0AKX in Albert Lee, Minnesota, jumping right into the pileup on the first night of the Ham Nation Bicentennial Special Event. That was the fun part, but the job's not done until the paperwork's complete. And tonight we'll look at the statistics behind this fantastic special event. First, we'll check out the overall statistics. The 6 special event stations with the one-by-one calls made 6,757 contacts. The wildcard stations, the other Ham Nation hosts, made 1,624 additional contacts. That totaled 8,381 for the special event. Overall, 3,274 unique stations were worked during the bicentennial broadcast event. Well, the 6 1x1 stations are all Ham Nation post-show net control stations. The certificate shown here was awarded to any station that worked all 6. Here's how the 6,757 contacts looked on a map generated by Microsoft MapPoint. There's a push pin for every contact. You can zoom in and click in on a push pin and see the several details about the contact. It was quite a process to get all this data into a map. It started with ADIF files from all 6 of the 1x1 stations. They were then merged into a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet was used to sort and total the data. And once we had the list of calls, we used the XML lookup feature at QRZ.com to retrieve the address information for all the stations. And then and only then could we import the data into MapPoint and come up with the map you're looking at now. Well, here's a look at the number of unique stations worked by the special event stations. Al W1H worked 839 from Danbury. Bill worked 1,353 from Round Rock. Mike logged 1,629 out in Gilroy. Steve made the most contacts with 1,761 from Washington State. I managed to log 1,174 contacts from the Yellow Brick Road. Well, we mapped the contacts from the 3 regular 40-meter net control stations, starting with Al, W1H, in Danbury. We had Amanda, K1DDN, print 500 QSL cards. So far, we've each sent out about 170. So if you worked us, make sure to send your QSL card to the 1x1 call signs and send an SASE with it, and we'll get these cards back to you. Be sure to do that before December 31st. Well, here's the distribution of contacts Al made as W1H. His total was 839 contacts. The weather didn't cooperate with Al's operation. He suffered severe thunderstorms during the weekend of the event. It required him to unconnect his antennas most of both Saturday and Sunday. This was right in the middle of the event and a very unfortunate situation. Here's Mike's QSL card with photos from the TWIT Brick House when he visited there during the past year. He worked 1,629 stations. Here's the distribution of those contacts Mike made from the Garlic Capital. And looking at the map, he seems to have worked in the same geographic area from the West Coast that Al worked from the East Coast. Finally, we move back to the center of the nation where the W0H QTH is within a mile of being equidistant from Danbury and Gilroy. I made 1,174 contacts from the Yellow Brick Road. Here's the distribution. It looked like it appears to be very similar to the distribution of Mike's contacts from Gilroy. Interesting to note, though, that most of us worked almost exclusively on 20 meters because the band was in such good shape during the event. However, we did slip down on 40 and 80 several times to give stations closer in a better chance to get a clean sweep. How did the other Ham Nation hosts do in the special event? Here's the breakdown. Christian, the host of the 100 Watts in a Wire podcast and Facebook group, made 200 contacts, and he had a ball in his first special event. Amanda made 425 contacts from Canyon City, Colorado. George works 254. Gordo logged 64 special event contacts, and Val brought home the honors with that fantastic antenna farm and her contest university skills. She worked 684. Well, that's a look at Ham Nation 200, the bicentennial broadcast special event. You know, we might be gluttons for punishment, but we're all looking forward to the next Ham Nation milestone and another special operating event. In the meantime, join us on or about 7278 kilohertz, 14268 kilohertz, and 3847 kilohertz for the on-air post-show nets. Thank you very much for watching. Well, the Ham Nation post-show net controllers staged an impressive event there. It was a lot of fun, and attempting to analyze the data and present it graphically was a lot of fun too. Special thanks go to Al K1LTJ for his guidance as I made the jury into the big data concepts. Something other hams might want to play around with in the future. Well, that's it for tonight's video segment. Next time, we'll definitely have enough photos to produce another Show Me Your Shack episode. In the meantime, we could sure use your videos. We're hoping Don Hill out there in California will send us a video summary of that International DATV event that was held earlier this month. So if you have some video footage of an event held by your club or just a few operating or construction tips, get them to us. This segment is all about viewer videos, and we hope to see yours right away. Well, just send an email link to your video on YouTube to HamNationVideos at twit.tv. And don't forget to send your shack photos to the same email address. We hope to work you on the Kansas QSO party, 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. That's on Saturday, 9 till 3 on Sunday. We'll be operating as Whiskey Zero uniform. We'll be putting the U in sunflower. Now, let's go back now, check in with George, and pretty sure he has the latest on one of his contests. George, how's it going?
Good evening, Dale. It's going pretty well, and thank all you net control guys for doing that special event there. That sure was a lot of fun, and boy, it must have been a lot of work too from what I saw right there. Well, you know, last week I asked a question, what is the ability to store energy in a magnetic field called? And your choices were A, admittance, B, capacitance, C, resistance, or D, inductance. And we had a winner on that. It's Jared Paxton, K2YSO. He said the answer is inductance, and that's correct, Jared. We're going to send you this MFJ telescopic antenna, good for 2 meters and 440. Got a BNC connector on it, perfect for fitting on to your handy-talkie with a BNC connector on it. For next week, we've got another question, and this one also comes from the amateur radio technician exam. What are the units of impedance? It's either A, volts, B, amperes, C, coulombs, or D, ohms. And if you think you know the answer to that, you could win this Howell LB1 lighted bass. It's a great new microphone bass from Howell Sound. It's got a LED light in the front of it here, a push-to-talk button on it, and a switch where you can turn on the LED full-time or just have it come on when you hit the push-to-talk. If you'd like to win that, send your answer to me at hamnationcontest@gmail.com. We may draw your name next week. Well, Don, it's been 10 years since Hurricane Katrina, and, you know, that's not something you want to celebrate, but I guess maybe it's something we would remember.
Yeah, celebrating is certainly not the word. I lost my home, so I'm certainly not celebrating, and Katrina is now the reason why I have a 125-mile commute to New Orleans every day for work. But it's something that we want to commemorate and remember because a lot of people lost their lives, and more importantly, all the communications went down. Well, I'll take that back. Not all the communications went down. Ham radio was here. And the ARRL, Alan Pitts at the League, they did a video a few years ago. And this is a great piece of video I want to share with you. It talks about ham radio's involvement with Hurricane Katrina. And when we come back, I'll tell you a little bit about one of the guys you're going to see in that video who is now a silent key and was a very good friend of mine. So let's roll that now.
communication was gone. Cell phones died, nothing worked.
Without the ham radios, we were not able to communicate with our shelters because the phone lines are down. We weren't able to communicate with our other resources like FEMA and MEMA and the Office of Emergency Management.
With no communication whatsoever, with all the systems down, it was very important to Dr. O'Brien.
Communications are extremely fragile, and that tends to be our biggest issue.
As soon as the wind died down just a little, I was up stringing antennas up on the roof. Immediately began to pass emergency traffic, physicians, nurses, any state, bring your license. We need medical supplies, additional vaccines, technicians.
I was handling HF traffic, emergency traffic, and a lot of it. There were requests for rescue. There were still people trapped in dormitories at some of the universities in New Orleans. I handled a lot of emergency traffic there. Tough, massive. Let's face it, this is the greatest natural disaster we've had in the United States. It's really been an experience for me, and I'm glad to help.
I wound up setting up in a Walmart parking lot. I was receiving traffic over the HF net, a lot of search and rescue, people trapped in attics, people trapped on roofs. There was a woman in labor with serious complications, and she was not going to make it if she didn't get out. They couldn't get a helicopter into that hospital. The helicopter got into Tulane Hospital, and then they had a boat en route to pick her up. And we had her ready to go, and getting in the boat, she got out safely and got into the chopper. That was a real heartwarming experience.
Because I am from New Orleans, this region is a very deep and super important part of who I am. I had to do something. This is my first emergency as a ham radio operator. We put up an antenna at the Red Cross headquarters in Brookhaven, set them up with a radio base, moved down to Gulfport, did some work there, slept in a school. It's better than sitting home and watching it on TV. It's very difficult for me because I'm from New Orleans. I went ahead and got my ticket after 9/11 because I wanted to be of some use. I love the idea of talking on the radio to people on the other side of the planet who you've never seen. And so I did it so that I would be of use. And it's paid off. It's really paid off.
It was such a relief to myself and Dr. Muller and Dr. Bryan to have Mike and all those people out there that helped to communicate with him. It's definitely a definite, warm, heartfelt thank you from me and from our staff.
Without the ham operators, we really don't have a way to communicate. And I'd like to say to the ham operators that helped us with this hurricane that they have been a wonderful asset. They've always had a smile on their face. They work really long, hard hours, and they were there to support us in every way that they could. So I say a heartfelt thank you from the shelter members, from the staff, and also from the Red Cross.
Cell phones, landline telephones, internet, email. Outside of that, what is there? I mean, if it's all down, it's down, and if you can't get at the airwaves via the ham operators, then there's no communication. Thanks, guys.
Myself personally and the Red Cross truly, truly, truly offers their complete and wholehearted thanks. And I think the American people offer their thanks in that the people in this area are really appreciative of what their efforts are, because from what I understand, you're all doing this as full volunteers. No recompense, you're paying your own way, and that goes really above and beyond anything that I have known before. So a very wonderful, heartfelt thanks, and keep coming back. And if there's anything that we can do for you guys, let us know.
And there you have it. Pretty amazing stuff. And the guy you saw in there, the ham radio operator, Mike King, W5PY, I wanted to, we're running late tonight, but I wanted to share that with you and say a few words about him. You'll see you see his call sign, W5PY, there over my shoulder behind the American flag. Mike was a great guy. Mike lived in Slidell, Louisiana, and he had, I don't know, 15, 20 feet of water in his house, lost a Corvette. lost everything. And Mike, as soon as he could, went to the hospital to start setting up the radios and the wires. And Mike lived in the hospital for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, I think. He's since passed on. But Mike King, W5PY, one of my all-time favorite people in the world. Such a giving guy. And all the hams who came down here and everybody who came down from around the country to help out and are still coming, actually. Thank you so much. But let me tell you something about Mike. Real quick, I want to share. I saw Mike at a Hamfest, and he had his girlfriend with him. And you heard how he talked. He had that, the way he talks. And I was like, Dawn, I want to introduce you to somebody. This is my girlfriend. This is Crayola. Crayola, this is Dawn. And my call back then was KC5MFA. This is Dawn. This is KC5MFA. He's one of my all-time favorite people in the world. Mike, why do you call this? What is her name? Well, I call her Crayola. Why do you call her Crayola? Well, because she's colorful, Dawn. I like colorful people. That's why I like you so much. That was Mike King, W5PY. So, Mike, I know you're up there, and thanks again. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you a little bit about Mike. Mike was a great guy. And all the people who came down here and helped, we thank you so much. New Orleans is back. There are still some things that are untouched, but it's important to remember for all the good folks in Mississippi, New Orleans was flooded. Mississippi took the brunt of the hurricane, and you want to see some damage. Oh, my Lord, what a hurricane can do. Just go on to Google and Google search Katrina, Mississippi Gulf Coast, and take a look at some of those pictures. George, wasn't near as bad as up there in Jackson where you are, but we went to Memphis and then went to Little Rock and spent 2 weeks there. And you know, my cell phone never worked the whole 2 weeks we were up there until we got down around Jackson. And all of a sudden it started working. And the farther we got, we started seeing damage in Jackson. So I know it got bad up there by you, but the farther south we got as we came back down here to Picayune, the worse it was. And it was just literally amazing. It was a month before we could get into our house in Chalmette. We were lucky. We only had 4 feet of water. Both of my wife's brothers had 14 or 15 feet of water. Wow. And just cars stacked up. Look like full-size 1-to-1 scale Hot Wheels that some kid had dumped, some giant child had just dumped out. And it was just, amazing. So 10 years Saturday, the 29th is the anniversary. So, and there are some special event stations too. Katrina5h.com is a website for one of them, and also the CLARC, Southeast Louisiana Amateur Radio Club. You go to the CLARC website, Google search CLARC, and you'll find that. But Katrina5h.com will get you to the special event station. So anyway, there you go, George.
Yeah, we're 3 hours to the north of it here in Jackson. It was still a Category 1 hurricane when it got here. And, yeah, we did have a lot of damage here. I was without electricity for 3 days, which is minor compared to what it was south of here. Everything south of Jackson, you know, really was pretty bad as far as, you know, loss of utilities and all. But down on the, of course, New Orleans was a catastrophe too. And like you said, that was from flooding, not the hurricane force winds and rain. Yeah, itself,
that was the failure of the levees. That was a man-made disaster. That was an engineering failure by the Corps of Engineers. The levees failed, and all the water came in. You know, we were lucky. If you can call it this, the original landfall was along the Mississippi Delta, Mississippi River Delta at Buras, Louisiana, which, you know, the Mississippi Delta is just a little spit of land, you know, with the river in the middle of it. It went right over there, didn't slow down, and then came into St. Bernard Parish, which is a parish is a county in the other 49 states. St. Bernard Parish is where Chalmette is, which is where our house was. St. Bernard Parish is the only county, I do believe, in the country where every structure was inundated by flooding. I think it's the only county in the U.S. history, I think, that was completely flooded. And we took an eye hit in Picayune, or rather in Chalmette, at my house in Chalmette, and at this house here in Picayune, which is about 50 miles to the north-northeast, 50 air miles to the north-northeast. Took 125-mile winds at both places. And the only thing that kept, I'm actually, where we live now in Picayune is a double-wide trailer. And, you know, growing up in Oklahoma, I know what wind does to trailers. And the only thing that saved us here was we have this huge, big stand of trees right behind our trailer, which deflected the wind over it. So the house in Chalmette was still there, but, 4 or 5 feet of water, and then you couldn't get into it for 30 days. The mold went all the way to the ceiling, and it had to be completely gutted, and we ended up selling it. And living here in Mississippi now with a 125-mile round-trip drive to New Orleans every day. So, but hey, it's I live on 10 acres with a pond and all my in-laws around me. So my son has all of his aunts and uncles and Mima and Papa and everything else. He was at kindergarten. He had just finished his first week of kindergarten, and now here he is, 15 years old. So, wow, looking back.
Yeah, it was really a devastating hurricane for Mississippi as well, as you say. I was alive and remember Hurricane Camille, which was, I guess, was the worst one that we ever experienced here. It actually had stronger winds than Katrina did, but I remember the damage that it did and how people said it was, like one of the worst ones ever. Well, Katrina even topped that. We didn't think it could get any worse than Camille, but Katrina showed us that it could. So,
and there's another one out there right now. There's Erica, which is a tropical storm, which is expected to be heading towards Florida. So, we're keeping an eye on that one. I don't like going through tropical weather on the anniversary of such things, but you live down in the South, that's what you get.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that, Don. Well, Amanda is not here this week. She'll be back next week. Val was going to do some chat room questions for us tonight, but we're running so late already. I think we probably should get on out and save up some of it for next week. We appreciate everyone joining us tonight. Check out our nets around. I know 20 meters is on 14.287. 40 meters is going to be somewhere around, I don't know.
72.78.
We fired it up on 72.78. So Al's on there right now. Mike's running a little late, but he'll be in for the second half of the net. But Al's got the net control right now, and we'll be taking it in a little bit here. So 72.78 kilohertz.
And you can catch Cheryl on 38.47 for you 75-meter fans. And we've got the two VHF, or maybe they're UHFs. I guess depends on where you live. But we've got the Echolink Net Star Dewdrop and Star node number 355800, and the D-Star Net Reflector 14 Module C. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this week. Any final words before we go, Don?
No, just again for everyone who came down and helped out with the relief efforts down here in Louisiana, Mississippi. Let's not forget Mobile, Alabama too. Mobile got hit hard, and then Hurricane Rita a few days, I think 3 weeks later, went into Texas. So for everybody who came down here and helped out in the whole Gulf South 10 years ago, we thank you. And there we go. Life goes on. George?
Yep. Good point, Don. Val, any final words?
No, sorry. And those of you who asked questions, just bring them up next week. I did have one, if I could quick ask Dale. Hey, how many people got the clean sweep? Because I know he won't be on next week. Do you know?
I haven't really talked to Steve, but he said about half of the cards he'd sent out were for the clean sweep. We've all had right around 170 cards that we've returned. So I would guess we're running around 80 or 90 at this point for the clean sweep, Val.
Oh, very good. All right, Walt, that's all I got. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Okay. Dale, anything final from you?
Just one important thing this weekend, of course, the Kansas QSO party. You can spell Kansas, you can spell sunflower, and you can spell QSO party with the suffixes from the 45 one-by-one calls operating in Kansas. Last year, 2 of the operators in California actually worked all 105 Kansas counties. So it's a really fun event. I hope the band is in a little bit better shape than it sounds tonight, but we'll see what happens, George. Have a good evening.
Okay, thanks, Dale. And we want to mention the show notes wiki that you can find all the show notes for previous episodes of Ham Nation. Our friend Dan, N9LVS, takes care of that for us. The link is a little long, so I won't give it here, but you can go to the twit.tv website, search your way to the wiki, and you can find notes on what we've been talking about for 211 episodes now. So thanks for being here, 7-3. We'll see y'all again next week.